Hello, hello, hello. It's Holly Rustick here with Grant Writing and Funding. And I'm super excited that you guys are joining the show today. If you're on YouTube or on our podcast listener, it's really awesome for you guys to be here because I help you grow capacity, increase funding, and to advance mission. So this is going to be fun because we are going to be talking about, and I'm saying we, because I have two other beautiful ladies on the line with me and on the call with me today to discuss really about, bringing in nonprofit clients, right? And that's the thing is, how do I get clients? How do I even go? Or even if you've already been in nonprofit consulting for a while, you may be going, how do I bring in a continual base? Maybe I lost one of my big VIP clients recently. How do I bring in more clients? The nonprofit industry is changing a little bit. Like, how do I tap into that? So definitely I have with me Mandy Pearce and Mazarine Treyz. Mandy Freddie for Good, and has 2 decades of experience in nonprofit consulting with strategic planning, grant writing, and so much more. And Mazarine Treyz she's been able to help thousands of people ask for more. Nonprofit consultants actually step up to the plate, ask for more, really design a business that they love. So welcome, ladies, back to the show, because this is a part of our nonprofit consulting series.
Woo! Yeah.
And I love it because we also have, if you haven't heard yet, our nonprofit consulting conference coming up, and that is presented by Founded Technologies. We are so excited about that. August 25th and 26th. You guys are definitely going to want to show up and sign up and get registered before all those slots are filled. So we definitely have early bird prices still that you guys are going to want to get in on. So check out nonprofitconsultingconference.com. All right, so I just want to go ahead and open it up. So talking about getting clients, and we do have a lot of in our nonprofit consulting conference as well, way more depth. Jenny Hargrove, she's a marketing expert. She's going to be talking about this specifically. We also have some other great sessions. I'll be talking about how to get referrals, but just in general, can we go ahead and touch on that? Because I know it's a huge thing is, how do I get clients? So Mazarine, do you want to kind of open on that?
Yeah, sure. So I'm not just a person who's working in the nonprofit sector and a consultant. I'm also a certified woman-owned business. And so in the pre-pandemic times, I taught at Metro, Oregon Metro, which is a regional government here in Oregon. It's really unique. I taught small businesses how to get government contracts. And I had a government contract to do that. And I'm going to go back to doing it this year, and I'm very excited about that.
Yes.
And so one of the things that I was able to do in my classes is take a sampling of all of the entrepreneurs in the room and say, where do you get new business? Mm-hmm. And the number one way for folks was referrals, and it still is, as far as I can tell. And so I'm really happy that you, Holly, are going to be talking about that. We're also going to have Andy Robinson talk about how presenting can be so powerful for your business. And one of the people that's in my mastermind right now, I got from speaking on a webinar. And, I speak in lots of webinars. I know, Mandy, you do as well. Mandy, would you like to take the rest of this question?
I think a big question that I always have folks answer before they can figure out where to get clients is identifying who is your ideal client. There's a lot of people who will pay you for work, but they may not be the people that you want to work with. And if you don't know that because you're just starting out or you're just getting a business off the ground, I promise you, after a year or two, you will quickly learn who your ideal clients are not. And sometimes it just takes that experience and learning the hard way, because even the 3 of us being super experienced, we can tell you some types of people you may not want to work with, but we may not know your exact ideal client because it's all about personality and what are your areas of expertise and what can you really provide for people to help determine who's the best fit for you. And that is some stuff that I learned over the years, maybe a little bit the hard way. And now I am very clear on who they are and how to bring them in and how to attract them and how to give them the right opportunities to engage with me, as opposed to like free 15-minute call. That's not my ideal client most of the time. Mm-hmm. Holly and I joke about this sometimes, but when people say, can I take you to lunch and pick your brain? That's not my ideal client most of the time. And, right? Occasionally it might turn into it.
My brain. So yes.
Are you a zombie? Because no, thank you.
Or Hannibal Lecter, so there's a lot of information that you're going to want to think through, right? If somebody comes to you and your first email from them is, hey, so we're a nonprofit. Do you have a nonprofit discount? That's probably not your ideal client. right? If somebody comes to you and says, we just started and we have a $10,000 operating budget, again, that's probably not your ideal client. And there's a whole bunch of other things to consider. And part of that just depends on where you are in the services you're providing, right? So the three of us work with folks that are already potentially consultants or thinking about being consultants. That's part of our business. It's one of our revenue streams. So those are not like, I'm not working with beginner nonprofits. Like, I'm not helping people establish nonprofits. I'm not working with founders most of the time, unless they're founders that are looking to create succession plans because they're exiting the organization. Right. So I have a very different type of ideal client. I know other consultants who their bread and butter is founders and beginner nonprofits. That's their thing, right? It's not my thing, but I have already decided who they are. Mazarine, you probably have a list of who you do and don't want to work with, who your ideal clients are. Holly, I know you do. We've talked about it. And there's a lot of different ways to weed them out.
Absolutely. And and that is such a good thing to be like, it's not just about getting them, like, especially like, I just work with nonprofits. I'm always like, what type of nonprofit? Like, what is your, if you're going to do grant writing, do you have a certain type of, industry or subject matter that you're passionate about or have experience in? And maybe you just work with nonprofits that focus on youth, you know what I mean? So you can really, and then they say, oh, if I niche down, I'm not going to get enough clients. And I'm like, oh, no. There's a part of the riches and the niches and, and all of that. But, so can you kind of touch on that a little bit too, as far as like niching down? Because I do think that's really overlooked sometimes. It's not even, maybe not a subject matter, but maybe what you specifically want to do. Like you mentioned, they only work with like startups and that's their thing, right? So that could be a huge revenue growth.
Well, so like you work with grant writing, right? That's how my company got started, was we only did grant stuff, right? And now I hardly ever do grant stuff. I do lots of grant education. I have tools on my website, resources for people for grants. We have blogs, we have videos, we have webinars, we have all this stuff to support that, but it's not really what I want to do anymore. We've grown past that as a company and we're doing other things, right? But when I was grant writing a lot, my messaging was US-based nonprofits. I didn't want to write grants for people in other countries. I didn't want to teach them how to do it. I didn't want to do research for them. Like, that wasn't where I wanted to work. I worked with a client who wanted to start a nonprofit consulting company in a particular state. And the only thing she wanted to do was serve nonprofits in the arts industry in that state. That's it. That's the only people she wanted to write grants for. And I was just like, that is super specific. That's going to be like a very small niche of people that you're hoping to be your ideal client. So that's a very specific type of targeted messaging. And so, there's a whole bunch of questions around that. Mazarine, what kind of questions do you ask when you start to determine your ideal clients?
That's a really good question. I'd say I go back to what satisfies me the most, and what it's become over the last decade that I've been consulting has been personal development and personal growth. And I love helping women, specifically in between the ages in their 30s to their 50s and 60s, kind of go from, what they've been doing for years that's not making them feel alive anymore. And I don't say happy for a very specific reason. We'll talk about that later. And into, what brings out their, the joy in their eyes and the smile in their hearts. And, for me, like, that is so satisfying and rich. And I feel like the journey as an entrepreneur has been a personal development journey for me. So as an example, I came from some nonprofit environments that were pretty toxic. And so for the first several years of my business, I was just really full of anger, and that really helped fuel my business. And so if you're angry that you've been in a bad place, or if you're sad, that's a wonderful place to start a business from, because your anger is actually your self-esteem asserting itself. And you should be angry if you've been mistreated. And then I started getting interested in workplace bullying, and then I started going down that rabbit hole. And then, I started doing presentations about that. And then I started looking at, how can I truly benefit the world with my personal anger and my personal knowledge of this? So whatever your pain is, one of the things that a guy who wrote Man's Search for Meaning, Viktor Frankl, said, because he lived through the Holocaust and his whole family died, he said, to find meaning in your suffering, then allows you to go on. So we've all been suffering for the last several years, and I can't help but think, this is the meaning in our suffering, is to really truly find what it is that makes us most satisfied, and then continue to do that work as much as we possibly can. So I started doing online conferences in 2015. I started thinking about how can we do people self-empower at work in their fundraising careers. And then I also started doing a nonprofit leadership summit in 2016 to also talk to people about bosses saying, here's how you can save money and make more money by treating people better. And I did that for several years, and then I stopped. It's a lot of work to run a conference. Hello. And we're doing it again. And this time, I feel like this time is going to be even more interesting because I've never before focused on just nonprofit consultants. And I'm starting to realize that they are my ideal client because the people I've worked with for the last several years have been having these transformational experiences that my other clients, they were happy with the money that we got. This is really benefiting you personally when you do this inner work. And that really turns me on.
I love that because you're like really examining, different trends going on, and also looking at within yourself and taking on different emotions and justifying a lot of those too, to say it's okay to feel this way, and I can use it to change my life, and I can use it to grow. So, I mean, definitely that is a part of finding your ideal services, your ideal situation, and your ideal clients, right? So it really is about not just getting out there and throwing out a bunch of Facebook ads and just saying, I'm available for hire, but not that any of us have ever done that. And then to really kind of like dig back and say, who do I want to serve? And I like to mention this too, is like when you're, meeting as a nonprofit consultant, you're meeting with maybe a board of directors. I want you to put on the hat. Do I want to hire them as a client? Right? And kind of spin it around, because that is going to be really important. You want to be able to show up 100%. And if you don't feel like you can, it might not be a good fit. You might not be charging enough. You might not be doing this certain type of work that you want to do. So those are all kind of, green lights, like as far as that. But yeah, I just want to, kind of talk about this just a little bit more, because I think it's important, and just to stay on that marketing of who your client is. How do you get those clients in the door? And I know we're definitely going to talk about referrals, but those that I liked what Mandy said about the 15-minute free call, right? Can we talk about the 15-minute free call just for a minute? Because that might be, I see that as one of the most popular trending things that I see nonprofit consultants doing right now to try to get clients. So Mandy, did you want to touch on that real quick?
Yeah, so Mazarine said something earlier that it really aligns with my experience doing free 15-minute calls, because I did it, right? Everybody does at some point in their career. They're like, ooh, let's put a button on the website. Talk to me. And what I found was my goal in that was to get people to book calls that wanted to talk about how I could serve them, how they could work with me, i.e. how they could pay me, right? And what ended up happening was 90% of the people I talked to ended up wanting free information and as much as I could give them in 15 minutes. And then they had no intention of hiring me. They didn't have a budget to hire me. They were never going to hire me, right? And so what I would experience was anger. I'd get on a call and I'd be so annoyed and pissed off and frustrated. And then I'd get off the call and I'd be more annoyed because I knew I had another call coming up. And so 2 years ago, we decided we revamped the website, which we do every 3 years. And we said, we're taking all that stuff down. And it made it much more difficult for people to book time with me. And almost all the ways people can book time with me involve them securing that with a payment. But the ones that don't, they have to go through a very specific process, fill out an intake form, tell me specifically what their budget is, what they're hoping to take away from the call. And it's for very specific services that they can then book a call for me. And now I don't care if people can on-demand consultation with me for an hour and want to talk about the color of the sky. I'm happy to do it because you've paid for my time, right? Yes. Whatever. And so it took it from a place where, yes, I want to talk to people. And yes, I want to make sure we're a good fit, but I'm not just going to do that for 3 hours a day because, well, I'm a nonprofit. And how do you know if I'm a good fit if you don't give me time to talk to you? Well, if I did that with everybody that's on my mailing list, I would never get anything else done. So, there has to be a process. And if you're like, but I think I'm going to be doing it differently than you did. Great, knock it out. See how it works for you. I hope that you get all the clients that you want from that. But I have yet to talk to a consultant who has had the most glowingly wonderful experience from that and is still doing it after a couple of years. So that's my experience.
Yes, and I love it. And Mazarine and I are like fist pumping in the background and doing little happy dances as you're talking. So I know you want to jump in, Mazarine. So please add to it.
Oh my God, I just got so excited. I moved my whole table. Yes, so like you talked about this very important thing, which is called qualifying leads. And that's what you're doing. You're saying, just like in major gifts, does this person have the capacity to give a significant amount for our organization that will justify the amount of time I spend with them? And you wouldn't ask somebody who's giving $1 a month in monthly giving necessarily to give you a $10,000 gift. You probably wouldn't. Maybe they don't have the means, or maybe it's a test and you find that out. But the way you find that out is you have them fill out a survey. And there's like software to do this, like iMarketSmart does this, and other ones. And once they fill out that survey, that's a great opportunity for you to be like, now put your money where your mouth is. You know, like, oh, you say you want to invest in yourself? Go for it. Do you have $12,000 to invest in yourself? Now we're going to talk. If you don't, then, you know, I have an array of resources for you. I've written over 1,000 blog posts over the years. I have courses, I have books. You can just go to town with all my free resources. You're not missing out. But if you really want to work with me, you need to really value the time that I've put in to build up this knowledge.
Yes. Yeah.
I gotta tell you, ladies, I had this experience the other day, and I swear it's the first time I've been like, I wanted to jump through the phone with this guy I was talking to. He got on the phone with me. He booked a call, booked a consultation, paid for it, right? And it's a consultation. It's very specific. It says what it is. He had to fill out a form to tell me what he wanted to talk to me about. Mm-hmm. He had his team of 2 other dudes on the call, and super just, I mean, these people are never going to listen to this podcast. And even if they do, I'm not saying their names, just some old white dudes with some super old, you know, ways of thinking. And in the middle of the call, because I wasn't telling this guy what he wanted to hear, I was answering his question, but not telling him what he wanted to hear. He said, well, no, I think I need you to move away from that type of answer. And I need you to, you know, this is an interview and we're trying to decide if we're going to want to work with you, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, oh, can we take a step back, please? This is not an interview. This is a consultation for which you paid for my time. I'm not interviewing for anything. I promise. Because if we were, I'd be interviewing you to see if I even want you to be my client. Oh my word, what is wrong with people? But yes, there's so many different ways to qualify folks. Just because somebody pays for a service from you doesn't mean you have to take them on as a client for any other service ever. And yeah, so there's a lot of ways you can qualify them. And like Mazarine said, YouTube channel, blogs, free downloads, templates, webinars, whatever. There's 1,000 ways for people to engage with you and decide, do I want to work with this person? But when you actually want to work with a real consultant, you need to have the resources to do it. That's money, not just time, but money. Yeah.
Yeah. And what you're talking about again, Mandy, is boundaries.
Yes.
And you don't get good boundaries until you work on yourself, because our society really encourages us to not have good boundaries.
Yeah, I agree.
So you have to do that inner work as well as the outer work to be a good consultant.
Yes. I love that, you know, and I just so fully supportive of that. And like Mazarine mentioned, like I used to do the free things. And I would pay for a babysitter to watch my girl. And then I'd go to the coffee shop and then people wouldn't show up.
Oh my God. Yes.
Yeah. And then I said, and then it was like, well, Holly, I don't want to pay for a coaching session. I just want to pick your brain, as you mentioned. And that's why I started calling my consulting sessions was Pick My Brain. And it's $250 for you just to show up, right? Before you can even book it, you have to pay first. So it's definitely something that has helped me free up a lot more time and get way more qualified leads. And, you know, because they're putting some skin in the game from the beginning. And, you know, it just really, and I feel more respected and valued, and I don't feel angry because I also felt angry. So, and that's very natural, I think, you know, as you know, we're like, wait a second, this is our business. This is our time. It's important and it is valued. So definitely.
And one of the things we're going to talk about in my session is how to write the correct verbiage in your contracts to make sure that you're not spending time with clients that you're not being compensated for. So if that's something you're looking for with this whole valuing your time, we're going to talk about that in my session. So
I can't wait to learn from you. I can't wait to learn from you, Mandy. I'm so excited.
That's going to be awesome. Yeah, that's going to be so valuable. Like right there, people will automatically just save money just by having that. So I can't wait to listen to that and learn from you as well, because man, that's a lesson that takes like a long time, and it takes so much exhaustion out of you that now you guys won't have to necessarily get there even, you'll get ahead of it. So wow, that's going to be amazing. So, all right. So this has been a great topic today. Thank you, ladies, for coming on the Grant Writing and Funding podcast during our series of nonprofit consulting. I know you guys listening out there have gotten a lot of takeaways today. And if you want to get more, come to the Nonprofit Consulting Conference. And that is presented by Founded Technologies. It is August 25th and 26th. You guys will be amazed. You're going to love it. You're going to get so much out of it, so you can go forward and really be confident when approaching clients and going out there and marketing, and, you know, really not putting yourself and just throwing your value away, but really stepping into your higher self and to say, okay, my time is valued, and respect yourself. So I love it so much. Any final words before we close out today, ladies?
Looking forward to seeing you all online.
Yes, cannot wait. Cannot wait. This is going to be the best. The more we do of this, the more I get excited about it.
All right. Once again, check out nonprofitconsultingconference.com. I hope to see you guys there.